Hello, everyone, and welcome to one of the most exciting sessions of the Philippine Startup Week 2021. My name is Bettina Gamboa, and I'm the Program Associate for Startup Development at QBO Innovation Hub, and I'll be your host for today's panel. So, this today's panel, we have a great topic on the table for today. We have some great speakers lined up. So, for today's panel, we'll be discussing the future of Philippine retail and e-commerce. So our goal essentially for this panel is really to create and explore opportunities on how retailers can redefine opportunity by looking at how retail merchant and consumer landscape has and will continue to change amidst the post-pandemic world. And of course, how the e-commerce ecosystem will play a role in this. To enlighten us on this topic, we've brought together thought leaders and key players in different sectors to this panel discussion. So I won't take up much of our time for today. Let's go quickly introduce our speakers for the panel. Today, first we have Ed Refundo, CEO and and founder of 4Gives. Hi Ed, great to have you here. Maybe
Hi,
you could tell us a
Bettina.
little bit about 4Gives.
Yeah, 4Gives is the first 0% buy now, pay later platform in the Philippines. So what we do is we try to empower consumers to basically avail of a revolving type of credit because credit card penetration in the Philippines is very low at around 5%. So it's a way for Filipino consumers to stretch their budget and avail of other financial products.
Oh, that's great. Okay, thank you so much, Ed. It's great to meet you and to have you here. So next up on our lineup of speakers, we have Archit Anand, CEO and co-founder of Omnirio. Hi, Archit. What can you say about Omnirio and to introduce it to our audience today?
Thank you, Bettina, for the warm welcome. I'm Archit. I'm the CEO and founder of Omnirio. We are one of its kind omni-channel and e-commerce operating system built for Filipino businesses in the Philippines. We work with businesses like brands like Marks and Spencer, Gap, Banana Republic, Lacoste, and also power e-commerce sellers to sell across multiple channel management, CRM softwares, all at a plug-and-play solution. So our customers go online, switch on our softwares in a few minutes, get started, and all of that at a subscription cost, right? So we're empowering more than 500 customers in Philippines at the moment, and we're growing as we speak.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Archit. So next on our panel, we have Ken Jaswani, CEO of Scent and Beauty Inc. Hi, Ken.
Hey,
Great to
good
have you.
afternoon.
Tell us
Good
about Scent and
afternoon.
Beauty.
We are a omni-channel player in the Philippines. We've been around for the last 40 years. I joined the business in 2008. It's a family-owned business. We have a distribution arm, a retail arm, and an e-commerce arm. And for our retail and for our e-commerce arm, we use Archit. We partnered with him almost 5 years ago. So we work hand in hand with him for our e-commerce and our retail services to have seamless omni-channel delivery for our customers.
All right. So yeah, Ken actually has worked with Archit on the with Omnirio. So great to have you here, and we're excited to hear from you. So of course, last but not the least, we have Dennis Velasco, CEO and founder of Prosperna. Great to see you, Dennis. Please give a brief background of what Prosperna does and who you guys are as a startup.
Yeah, thanks, Bettina. And hey, Ed, Arch, and Ken, great to have you guys. And yeah, so I'm the CEO and founder of Prosperna, and we're on a huge mission to empower 100,000 Philippine MSMEs with what we believe is the simplest and easiest e-commerce payments and logistics platform, so that we can help empower our country and reach new heights.
All right. Thank you very much, Dennis, for the introduction. We have some great players in the e-commerce and retail industry with us today to discuss the future of Philippine retail and e-commerce. So thank you everyone for joining. And before we get started, I think for our audience, I just want to kind of lay the groundwork of today's discussion. So we generally want to see what's happening with the Philippine retail and e-commerce industry at the moment. And I don't think we need to be a big player or a very deep into the industry to realize just how intensely hit the retail and e-commerce industry was during the pandemic. We've seen stores close down, both online and offline. So many offline stores shifting to online. A lot of entrepreneurs had to work around it. But the great thing about what we're seeing moving forward is that the Philippines uh, is looking towards a great future in the retail and e-commerce industry. So actually, according to Fish Solutions, the Philippines is looking towards a recovery in 2021 as household spending in the country is projected to grow 5.7% year on year on the back of a low base in 2020. Other than that, the Philippines e-commerce penetration rate is actually only 5% in comparison to Singapore's penetration rate of 14%. And despite that, the Philippines e-commerce sector is expected to reach a gross merchandise value of $15 billion. So we have a lot of potential, a lot of future to look forward to in this industry. And I think all of our speakers here today can speak highly about that, can speak a lot based on their experience in their startup and from their own business perspectives. So let's get down to business. Let's get right to it. So the first key focus area that we'd actually like to discuss, of course, before we look at the future, let's look at the current state of Philippine retail. So I want to ask our speakers for today. You've all worked with a lot of SMEs, entrepreneurs. So I wanted to ask to jumpstart the conversation. How has the pandemic affected their operations? What are you seeing that has affected them? Like key factors, key elements in this whole pandemic that caused them to force change out of these SMEs that you serve. Maybe we could begin with Ed in 4Gives. Maybe you could jumpstart the conversation.
Yeah, sure. The way I observed it, it did immensely affect operations of these retail businesses. When I was in the Philippines a couple months ago, I was there for about 4 months. I've seen some stores that I normally go to in Makati that were closed, and kind of sad to see that. But I've also seen some businesses thrive even with multiple lockdowns. So, I mean, some of the reason why they close is because number one, they don't have enough cash flow or their pockets are not deep enough to cover the losses. And secondly, some of them are scared to innovate or they just failed to adapt, unlike other stores that are still thriving at this point. So you really have to innovate, pivot, have a strong cash flow. There's this saying in the startup community that we like. It's called pivot or perish. So basically, that's what happened to some of the operators in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You actually did mention a few things about what affected their operations, but maybe I could ask maybe Dennis, what market forces are actually driving a lot of this change? Maybe you could dive deeper into what's forcing these within the pandemic, maybe very key, very specific elements or key forces driving the change.
Yeah, I think, well, two things really jump out at me. One, on the downside, and this is very self-evident, but the actual Philippine Retail Association had cited reports that retail foot traffic went down by an average of 76%. So, and that number is just a really sharp, but it's the facts, and we've seen it. But those numbers are huge, and clearly nobody was prepared for that. So that's the downside to it. On the upside, internet usage, just like this meeting today, has massively gone up, and the Philippines is one of the most highly penetrated countries in Southeast Asia, where internet usage is up to 82%. Despite our vast geography and vast distribution of people. And so I think those are some really big things that are driving retailers to rethink what they're currently doing, what they used to do, and trying to figure out how they should move forward. So that's what we're seeing.
Thank you for that, Dennis. So you mentioned foot traffic drastically dropped, but internet usage drastically, of course, increased over time, right? So given that this was the new changing trend, maybe I could ask Archit, given this changing trend, what new business models have you seen a lot of these SMEs adapt?
Okay, now I think both Edward and Dennis have sort of hit the nail. So we were sort of in the middle of all of this, right? Being an omni-channel platform, we were catering to our. We started off working with bigger retailers like SSI. Ken over here was already a customer before the COVID happened, and so we had data coming in from their offline stores and online stores together. And as soon as COVID happened, we saw that, okay, the sales from offline stores have just gone down by 90, 95, 99%. Um, SSI came back to us and they were like, okay, we need to remodel the way we are doing omni-channel. We need to rethink about our omni-channel and online strategies. And there were other brands and big retailers. I'm talking about bigger, renowned names in Philippines. Strategy at that time, they had to sort of block it off for some time and rethink their entire Omni e-commerce strategy. And that made us realize as well. So at Omnirio, we made a pivot ourselves. We wanted to then open up a platform as an e-commerce operating system for SMEs and MSMEs in the market as well, rather than focusing only on the big retailers pre-COVID. And we saw that the SMEs and the MSMEs were the fastest to sort of pivot, were the fastest to sort of come in and realize that this is now a market open for them to fill the gap, because the gap is being left by these big retailers who are taking time to realize what they have to do. And yes, I think what we've seen now is the bigger retailers are only realizing now, 1.5 years into COVID, as to what they have to do and what they want to do. Whereas the other business models, more D2C business models, more online first business models have now gone up. And the data speaks for itself. Philippines, on an average, consumers spend more than 6 hours on the internet in Philippines. That's the highest anywhere in the world, right? So we already have more than 100 million people spending more than 6 hours a day on internet and online. So, and I had data coming in from some of my friends at Lazada and Food Panda, and they mentioned that in Philippines, at an average, more than 2 million transactions happen online. For a population of 100 million people, you're getting 2 million transactions happening per day. It means, on an average, one in every 50 people are sort of buying online now, which is a huge shift in sort of what is happening. And I think we are in the middle of a huge revolution. And I think that's where there are a lot of cracks to be filled, logistics, supply chain, which I think Ken mentioned as well briefly while we were discussing initially. There are a lot of gaps to be filled over there. There are technology players like us who are coming in and filling the gaps over there as well. So I think it's a very exciting space to be in, and a lot of things to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for that, Archit. I think a lot of you mentioned, you know, what these SMEs and MSMEs were faced with, and if they had to pivot, they had to innovate. But I feel like it's also easily said than done to just quickly say, of course, just pivot, innovate. So maybe I could actually ask Ken, who actually is a business owner himself, what barriers did you have to overcome in order to pivot, in order to innovate? Given the fact that we're working with an imminent pandemic, right? So maybe Ken, a few thoughts on that.
I would consider myself a little bit of an outlier because we are not. How would I say this? We're a family-owned business, but it's just myself and my dad who are the owners of the business. So we don't have any external partners. So we didn't, obviously no one could predict the pandemic, but we did see this e-commerce change coming a lot sooner than most other businesses did. We were first into Lazada and Zalora back in the day. We were first into Shopee, and we had plans of already launching our own .com as early as 2018. Obviously, it was too early in 2018. We decided to park it till 2020, and perfect timing, COVID hit in 2020, and we created our own .com. But something has to be said. I think organizations, myself included, need to act a lot faster, need to make decisions a lot quicker. The world is literally changing right in front of our eyes. The developments in technology, what happened in the last 20 years has the last 2 years has already surpassed what happened in the last 20 years. So we think that we as an organization think that what's going to happen in the next decade will probably happen over the next 3 years first, right? So if you take Southeast Asia, we are still way behind the Philippines. If you see some of the stuff that's happening in Indonesia, in Thailand, and in Singapore, they're light years ahead. So first of all, what I think people need to take. So what I think business owners like myself and other people have realized is Philippines will always have kind of a traditional business model wherein there's B2B and then B2B, B2C. But then we need to if we as business owners want to see hyper growth or exponential growth, we need to create a business development arm within our organization that's only focused on that part of growth. And you need to keep two or three people within your team studying these trends and analyzing where you can go and how fast you can pivot. Because literally with technology, you don't need 50 people to move. You need 5 people to move, and then technology takes care of the other 45 or 50 people's workload, right? You just need 2 3 people in your organization to understand what's going on, and then if you have the proper tech with you, you can quickly pivot and move. So I think the lessons learned are, um, if you are a traditional business, step one is you definitely need to techify your business, right? Because if not, you're going to be left behind. So first step is techify your business, and then prepare, right? You constantly need to keep preparing and seeing trends, what's happening in the region, and then just be ready, right? If your tech backbone is good and you understand what's going on, even if it's something new in the market, at least you have the capabilities to quickly pivot or expand when the time is needed.
Okay. Well, those are great insights, Ken. So I just to kind of recap what you said. Um, Generally, change is imminent, like what you said. Change is right before our eyes, and it has to be inherent in businesses, in the businesses of these SMEs and MSMEs to already foresee change and integrate preparations already within your business itself. So the way you said it, technology was a very key element in being able to adjust to it. But more than anything, it was really quickly adapting, quickly making decisions. And I think that's a wonderful thing to share with a lot of the SMEs and MSMEs listening today. So we've kind of tackled on the things in the pandemic that have drove change, that have drove challenges as well to all these enterprises. But now I think I want to focus on the opportunities. So maybe I can throw this question to Archit or Dennis. What opportunities or what are the biggest success stories you've heard in especially in the last year and a half or 2 years, given all of the changes happened before our eyes?
Arch, I'll let you take that one first.
Sorry, okay. I lost for a second, but I'll go first then. Yeah, so I think the biggest success stories actually are the ones who've not come out in the news. These success stories of people who lost their jobs, people who had to sort of revisualize where they were heading. And these people are basically the hidden warriors, which we don't know of. These people started their own online businesses and now some of the most successful e-commerce and online businesses we know about. So we, for example, cater to a lot of these businesses who just started because of COVID. Started selling on Shopee, started selling on Lazada. They started setting up their own .com websites, and you look at the sales. These guys are data-driven people. They understand the native digital world. They understand social media a lot better, and there are crazy success stories coming out of what's happening. So people who've sort of taken up that opportunity have sort of won, are the winners coming out of this. So I think people who are people who have so people who have, I think Ken left, but yeah, people who have adapted to the online e-commerce world, who have been faster in adaptation, are definitely the one winning. In terms of the players like us, I think we are the ones who are showing the way. We have to reinvent ourselves. So me, Dennis, Edward, we have to be fast as well. We can't just be saying that, okay, we're doing few things. We have to be extremely fast in terms of making sure that we are able to provide the backbone for these businesses to be able to win. So for us, it's about working with partners. It's about providing the right solutions, making sure that we are sort of bringing all the ecosystem together in one place, and our customers have the best possible channels possible to sell. They have better, faster integrations, better integrations, and we make their life a lot easier. Work with partners like Prosperna, work with partners like Lazada, Shopee, and make their lives a lot easy. So yeah, I think it's a challenge for us, but something we're very excited of, because we are sort of now in a landscape where we are remodeling the way e-commerce and retail is done in Philippines, and it sort of makes me go the extra mile every day these days. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm back on the call. I had a little bit of technical difficulty. I apologize if I missed anything. If I did, you can ask it again. But if not, I'm sure Archit covered it.
Yeah, you're
Nice.
good, buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
So
Go
yeah.
ahead,
So
Dennis.
I like what Arch mentioned about those hidden warriors and success stories, and I think Bettina, that's really where the silver lining and the inspiration is to what's happened all around. Um, the success stories that I think we've seen are just they're honestly they're amazing. I mean, imagine we've grown to over 1,500 MSMEs in just a very short period of time, on our platform, and these are folks that had no tech experience before. And as Ken mentioned, earlier, luckily they were prepared. But let's face it, the Philippines was a little asleep when I came here. I feel like we were 10 or 15 years behind, right? And so it's that courage that we're seeing, every day. And so we've got some great stories of success from, let's say Mayumi Organics, right? They were a business that they've been around for about 7 years, right? And they jumped onto the online bandwagon, after having a mall strategy, and at the snap of a finger, because they had such great product and such a great brand, people went online to look for them, right? That's what consumers do. If they really want your brand and product, they will try to find you, and they go through one door, and that traditional retail door was shut. Where do you think they're going to go? They're going to go to that wonderful device and try to find you there. So I think that's a wonderful success story there. And then even, some of our food and beverage companies, Bettina, Ken, Arch, and Ed. I don't know if you guys have ever had the Lola Nena's famous triple cheese donuts, right?
No.
But they used to be a
I
traditional.
don't think I can. I don't think I can eat triple cheese donuts.
We'll order some.
You're pretty brave to eat triple cheese donuts.
You got to be in good shape. You got to be in good shape. But we'll send you some on your cheat day. But they were one of those traditional Philippine restaurants that they were selling pretty much everything under the sun in their menu. And what they found was a new way to redefine and reshape and maybe simplify their menu. And that's why I bring up those famous triple cheese donuts, because they're selling thousands of that, because it's a very online consumable, product. And, at the end of the day, that's made their business a lot more profitable. Right. So I think those are, a couple that just stand out. But, love to hear, maybe what Ed and
Yeah.
Ken has seen.
I mean, out of crisis comes opportunities,
Yeah.
and I truly believe that even though we had this terrible pandemic, I believe this is going to be the golden age for Philippine startups. Because there's so many problems that you know that we can solve and we need to solve. I mean, it's a good thing that last I looked, Gcash adoption more than doubled from 20 million wallets. Now it's over 40 million wallets. Because most Filipinos are forced to use digital wallets for cashless transactions, right? And then what it did was basically Mint, the company that has that product. Basically they're already a unicorn today. So I think they're close to $2 billion worth. So it's something to emulate. They've, they've, been- they've, they've released Gcash years ago, but it took this pandemic to create mass adoption of their product. And I do believe Filipinos start to realize there's a lot of opportunities that can be created, and it's actually much easier. It benefits everyone if we if we're following our neighbors across Southeast Asia, where they're 5-10 years ahead of us, with as far as technological adoption is concerned. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that still out there, that and a lot of problems that we can still solve.
Okay, thanks so much, Ed. I think a lot was said in that last question, and you actually touched on our next key focus area of this discussion. So we've kind of seen what the current state is of retail and e-commerce, but now, like what you've all said, the opportunity is massive moving forward for a lot of these enterprises. And I guess right now I kind of want to jump into what the future would look like for all of these SMEs, MSMEs. So I guess maybe I could go back to Ken or Ed, whoever wants to answer this. No, how would you say retailers could potentially future-proof their operations? Could more or less kind of protect themselves, given that okay, this is what we're looking at 3, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. How can they future-proof this?
Uh, I would say retail should become, even if you're a pure play retailer, it should only be a retail as a business model should only be a part of your business. It should not be 100% of your business. Because we see a lot of pure play retailers that, I mean, look at the United States, right? Amazon came and just disrupted everyone, and all these large retailers had to shut down or go into bankruptcy. I mean, history, I mean, it's there, it's on record, it's proof. It may not happen here today, tomorrow, but it will happen in 10 years. So those people who are naive about it should not be naive about it and understand that technology will disrupt almost everything out there, including us human beings. I mean, artificial intelligence is around the corner, right? So, having said that, pure play retailers need to understand that they can't be pure play anymore. Retail should become a part of their business offering or suite of services. They need to keep adding other businesses to complement or to be more customer centric. They need to focus on what their consumer wants and what their customer wants. And obviously, each different retailer has their own niche, so they need to focus on what they're providing as a product to their customer and figure that out. And if they do that, they'll be fine. But they need to start today.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Ken. So, actually, so that was an interesting point too. Retail can't be your entire business model, right? I feel like that was a very key uh, key element of what you said. Maybe I can throw this next question to Dennis because I think it's also connected to what Ken mentioned. And you've mentioned the word branding also earlier, having a great product and having great branding. So, what role would branding play actually in the future of retail, given all of these things that and all of these opportunities that you guys have laid out on the table in this discussion?
Yeah, I think that is super important, and it's branding is something that is not very well understood, and that can also be a huge competitive differentiator for any company out there. Because look, we're all consumers, all of us, right? So even though we might be, a software company or a tech company or a beauty and wellness company, uh, you know, we buy stuff as well. And nobody here, I guarantee, appreciates a bad customer experience. And so when I think of branding, I think of customer experience first, and that's where branding really plays a role, right? Because sadly, 64% of consumers, again, just like all of us, would abandon a purchase or not do business with a company or a brand because of a bad experience. And the bad experience can be just as simple as I can't find your phone number online, or your phone number on Facebook doesn't match your phone number on your website. It can be just as simple as that, because guess what? It's a very competitive world out there. And in the online world, you only have 2 seconds to really catch your customer's attention and go, hey, we're better, right? And that's what the customer experience and the brand is all about. So that's a really big thing for us. I can go on and on, but I'd love to hear what some of the others think about, brand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
If I
maybe.
may
Yeah.
add to it, if you don't
Go
mind.
ahead, Ed. Yeah.
Well, he may not be a very popular political figure, but he's known to say this word, huge. That's how much branding plays a role in retail. And he is Donald Trump. He's actually basically the king of branding. He reinvented the wheel as far as branding is concerned. Yeah, he's a very successful businessman before he became president. But as far as branding, he understood it. A lot of the Trump buildings, resorts, golf courses, he didn't really physically own them. They're just, he was just paid to put his name on those resorts, buildings, and golf courses by other people, and he earns millions of dollars just because of that brand that he created years ago. So, about as Dennis mentioned earlier, he's right. Great brands are built on core consumer insight. We go to Nike to buy what? Because we understood that they're good sports apparel. We buy their shoes, we buy their clothing. Or if you want to go with something more luxury, something luxurious, first thing that comes to mind as far as bags are concerned, it's Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. And Arch, you guys work
Right?
good
And
points,
if
Ed.
you're like a weekend warrior, a female weekend warrior, probably go to Fabletics. What's that?
No, I was saying.
I'm sorry, Dennis.
I was just saying, good point. I mean, you got to have people will actually pay you for your name if you've got a good brand and a good customer experience. And I was just curious because I know, Arch, you guys work with a ton of the big brands out here, right? What do you see? Because you're trying to help them, proliferate their brand, right?
Yeah. No, I think sort of you guys are hitting the nail in the right place. Even brands like so Ken carries a lot of these luxury brands. He's one of the top luxury distributors in Philippines, and he sort of owns a large market share over there. And along with him, like with all the other tier A, tier B brands we've been working with. And I think what he mentioned is retail has to be part of the strategy, and everyone understands that, right? So it's not just, so brand building is also about, for these brands who've created a name for themselves, they now need to be present everywhere. As consumers, as you rightly mentioned, Dennis, they're looking for you at different places. They're not looking for you in malls anymore because and the brands are now realizing that, right? So it's more about being omni-channel, being sort of present everywhere. And now they've sort of, reality has struck. If it should have happened a lot earlier, but it's never too late, right? So these guys are now present, building up their own .coms. All the tier A, tier B brands who initially thought that, like Louis Vuitton, for example, they were like, maybe people will not spend so much money online. They will go to the store and they want to experience that. But maybe online is a way for them to check out and have those experiences, bring in different technologies, and maybe the payment can still happen in the store. So it's all about your consumer journey. Your consumer journey now starts maybe at a social media page or at a Google search or at your .com website, and it might finish at your retail store eventually. So it's for these brands, it's for these businesses to now understand that the customer journey is a lot more complex. It's not your offline customers are just searching for you in the malls and your online customers are searching for you on your .com. So our customers realize that, and they envision that, okay, even if you might not be getting your sales online, but your online presence is helping you get more sales offline as well, and vice versa, right? So I think that's where, as a platform, we've been helping the bigger brands and businesses like Ken as well to sort of proliferate the market as the market dynamics change now. Maybe Ken, you can speak a little bit about it with your experience.
I didn't catch that last part, Archit. My experience on what particularly?
Yeah. So for you, in terms of being one of the biggest luxury perfumes and scent distributors, in terms of being online, you have a .com presence, but it might not have the biggest sales going, but it at least helps you maintain a presence, and your customers are finding you online and might be going offline and purchasing you over there. So the customer journey is a much more complex journey now compared to what it was before. So I was talking about those touch points. So as for you, it's important to now spend a lot more money online as well, and not just be like, my customers are retail, my customers are e-commerce. The customers are now everywhere. So it's a complete circular journey now.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, as a B2B player or a B2C player, someone who's in my position, who basically we are custodians of the brands that we work with, right? And so we provide channels for the brands that we work with in the country so that they can eventually reach their end customers. We have to be everywhere. We have to cater to every consumer, the mom who goes to the mall shopping, or the kid who's on Instagram, or the working male professional who wants to buy stuff for his girlfriend or wife. So we have to be able to cater our products every single channel that we have an opportunity to. If one of these channels don't work today, that doesn't mean that these channels won't work in the future. We have to invest for the future. I think that's also one of the key learnings of being more tech driven, is you need to invest not only for today. You need to invest 5 years from today, right? Because technology today will probably be obsolete in 36 months. So you don't want to have a software system or a hardware system that's going to stop working in 36 months. So you got to think 5 years out from a tech standpoint. But that's from a tech standpoint. From a brand standpoint and a product standpoint, you almost have to be everywhere. You got to be able to take these small bets, and these small bets, and you have to measure them. The key is to measure it, right? If you're taking small bets and you're not measuring it, that's a mistake. You got to take small bets, measure it, and what works, double down on it, right? Or triple
Exactly.
down on it, and then shut down the ones that don't work. But you got to measure everything that you're doing, and if it works, then good. If not, you pivot again.
Great. Ken, I think that was a wonderful cap to the last discourse that we had across the four of you. We jump from brand to other opportunities that we have in expanding your channels, product wise, from a product standpoint, from a brand standpoint, and now capped it off that whole discourse with again, going back to the word pivoting or perishing. I love that expression. I'm going to keep that in mind again. So thank you, Ken. I believe you have to jump off the call
Yeah,
already.
unfortunately, I have another call that I have to jump on. But good luck, guys. Thank you so much for having me. And people who need software, you got to call Archit. His stuff solves a lot of bottleneck issues that many offline players have.
Thank you, Ken.
Love
Thank
it,
you for
Pleasure,
the
Ken.
pleasure, Ken.
confidence.
Take
Thank you.
care, guys. Good
Thank
luck.
you, Ken.
See ya.
Right. Well, we're not yet done with the discussion. We have actually I think a lot of good ideas going around this panel today. So I guess I can jump forward, seeing to the other aspects of what the future of retail looks like. So actually, you guys mentioned a lot of key things to keep your eye on, key things that these business owners and SMEs they have to watch out for as they continue to adapt, change, and continue to pivot and adjust with all these things happening before us. So maybe I would like to ask Ed, what is one single trend maybe that you believe retailers have to look forward to?
With our current retail climate, I believe they should have an online channel. You can't just rely on a brick and mortar type of store. Number one, it's actually costly to do a brick and mortar type of store, because you have to pay rent, and then the rent goes up annually. And then of course you need to have more people to help manage the store and help with sales, things like that. I'm not saying they completely stop that, but adding sales channels through e-commerce, my friend founder, he also did mini apps, so it helps um, merchants and enterprises to sell products through Facebook Messenger, Viber, which is already a big thing in China, where they do a lot of online selling through TikTok, or they could do, they could do YouTube. They can monetize that. They could promote their products. So there's a lot of avenues. You just have to be creative. You also have to follow things that have already worked for other, other businesses. You don't need to be, a rocket scientist to figure this out. You just have to listen to, you know, experts like Dennis and Archit. They offer solutions, with Archit, with his software as service. That's a big deal. It really streamlines the process for, a lot of these retailers. And with Dennis, his product really helps, the smaller businesses to gain online presence. And with online presence, it really opens up your business to the market, to a much wider market. And actually back in 2000, I remember this, uh, Bill Gates said, if you have a business and you're not in the internet, then you are out of business. And this was 21 years ago. See, that's how, his
Yeah,
vision was.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
how
yeah.
much of a forward thinker
Mm-mm.
he was. So that's one thing, we need to educate, while we're selling our startup to these retailers, to these businesses. We also need to let them realize the value of our proposition.
Exactly.
Because we're here to solve problems. We're here to make their lives easier as retailers, and for the consumers, bring in more consumers as well. So yeah, that's my thought on that.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe Archit or Dennis. I like what Ed said. You both have products that not just, of course, like with Dennis, help these business owners reach a wider market, but businesses like Archit or Omnirio, where you streamline all of these business elements to make, of course, a more efficient business, to make it to be able to scale well, to
Yeah.
be able to also cater to all the needs of the customers of all these enterprises. So maybe you guys have anything else to share given what Ed has just said.
Okay, I think I'll jump in, and then Dennis can always come in and wrap it up. No, I think so. What Ed has mentioned is sort of the tipping point or the starting point. I think by now we are ending 2021. Like, I don't even remember like how fast has time flown. Like I still think that I was back in Manila in March. 16th of March. It was one of the last flights coming in from Manila to India before they were shutting the doors. And I still remember very vividly that I'm still living in Manila, and I'm still there. But no, I think we've seen the world change in front of us. I think one of the very first steps we believe everyone has already taken is go online now. And if they've not taken, please take it ASAP. Prosperna is helping you do that in a few minutes. Once you're online, reach out to us. We'll help you with the next steps to scale you guys. But once you do that, I think it's a lot more important to visualize where you are. What kind of niche do you have? I think with someone like Ken coming in as a retailer, we sort of understood that, right? As a niche, you need to focus on your niche now as a business. You can't do everything everywhere. So you need to focus on your niche, because once we've gone online, and we as businesses understand that as well, right? Now we've gone online, our competitors are no longer the store next to us. Our competitors are global players now. We are in one single global playing field, right? It's the same for us at Omnirio. When we compete for talent, I'm not competing with a startup in Philippines anymore. I'm not competing with a startup in India or Singapore. I'm competing with startups in Silicon Valley now. I need to get the best talent because the talent's going over there, right?
True.
So if we have now sort of leveled the playing field. COVID has sort of brought the whole globe together, and it's a global playing field now. And people need to focus and double down or triple down on their niches. And then being online is sort of the starting point, and then focus on your niche, focus on your messaging, make sure that you're present everywhere. There are various opportunities which maybe your competitors have not looked into, and you will be only able to do that once you have your tech stack in place. The tech stack can be Prosperna, Omnirio, 4Gives, other players bringing together a tech stack together. Once you have the tech stack, once you have these data points coming in as to what Ken mentioned earlier, then you can double down or triple down on what works for you. I think it's very important to reach that level ASAP, because if you're not there yet, you'll not know what works and what doesn't work. And you're basically sort of throwing a dart in the dark right now as to what will work and what will not work. So it's very important for businesses to sort of take that leap forward, because if they're not taking that, they're not going to reach that stage. It's the same with businesses like us. We've sort of taken that step and we've said that we are internet first businesses, right? So when we built Omnirio, we said that we'll be internet first business. We'll be accessible for anyone who's online. We are not going to be accessible for anyone as an app, as a for them to install in their desktops. It's an online first business. Everyone has to go online and find us there and start using us there. Likewise, I think now all the other businesses have to do the same. And once they are there, have a good tech stack in place. People like us will always help you. We'll recommend you other partners in the industry to sort of be able to build that. Once you have that, you can then decide on your niche, what you're doing, what you're not doing. It's easier for e-commerce only businesses coming in and doing that. There's a huge trend right now of quick deliveries. If you look at a lot of these quick delivery startups coming up in Indonesia and in other parts of the world, Philippines, it hasn't caught up yet. We're not seeing anyone do a 10-minute delivery or a 20-minute delivery in Philippines yet. But this is happening everywhere else in the world. In India, for example, where I am, bunch of two 19-year-old kids launched their own quick delivery startup, and they raised around $120 million yesterday. Right, so that's the amount of money coming in quick delivery groceries. Earlier, the smartest people were going into investment banking. They moved to fintech. Now they're going to groceries. Right, so the smartest brains in the world are now launching online groceries, and it's a huge space. Retailers, online players, huge vacant space. Anyone who has the right mindset, the right tech stack can attack that. So there are a lot of spaces. Everyone can find their own. I think it's about trying it. It's about being open to experiment, open to fail. And once you learn from your experiments and failures, I think that's when you come out on top from that. Yeah.
Actually, like I love the point that you made. So the figuring out your tech stack first and seeing what you can and can't do, what your focus is, what your niche is. And I think that is a good bridge to my next question. Well, I'll ask Dennis, but I'll also go around the room and get your input. I'm so curious to hear what new key technologies that you think or you believe might come into play, but are not quite here yet in the Philippines. Because I mean, what you're talking about now is like, okay, the having, let's say, Prosperna on Omnirio 4Gives as your tech stack. Yeah, that's already like the present happening now. But what are some future technologies that you see could come into play and could affect all of like what these businesses can and can't do? So maybe Dennis, you can start.
Sure. Honestly, I think for the Philippines, while I like that question about the future, I think, we really have to first focus on the basics. But this is a little bit futuristic because what we believe and see in the future is Philippine MSMEs will be highly, highly connected. They will be able to, because the Philippine MSMEs, they know the market, they know their community better than almost any major brand. So they will be able to unlock their potential locally by being a highly connected MSME. So since they know their customers, right, they will be able to get, whether it be fast selling products or high value, luxury brands at the snap of a finger, because they can go onto their cell phone and go, I know 20 people that need this right now. Right. And then, not only will they be able to deliver or get products and services, to their community a lot faster, but I'm also really excited because they're going to be able to create their own little businesses and become mini fulfillment centers, right? And be able to turn their what we call underutilized space, right, as drop off and pickup points. And then all of a sudden they're making a little bit of money, right? Yeah. As the e-commerce transactions just continue to grow and grow every year and every month. So I'm just excited about that because I'm really looking forward to a time where the Philippine economy just massively improves between now and the next 10 years, and we really change and redefine and make success accessible to every Philippine MSME. You know.
Wow, maybe Archit and Ed, you might have other like something to say in light of what Dennis also shared.
I'll leave that to
Yeah.
Archit.
All right. No, I think Dennis has touched a very interesting
Yeah.
point, and this is something I've spoken with Dennis on our catch-ups and discussions as well in the past. And we've been sort of trying to go to market together, and we've been in meetings and demos where we've spoken with bigger enterprises and then as MSMEs together and explained them what to do and what not. I think, yeah, I look at a world which is a hybrid model, right? There are retailers who have spaces. There are retail spaces or stores which can be um, points where obviously you can retain it as a retail store, but it can also now, and it's already happening in India. It's already happened in the US. It's already happening in China. They are now your e-commerce fulfillment centers as well. You have an asset. You have a physical space which is close to your customers. Customers are online, buying online. Why not utilize the inventory lying over there and deliver them quickly in the next 1 or 2 hours? The tech stack's already available, right? Set up your online store on Prosperna, use Omnirio, provide paying options through 4Gives, and you're already there doing that. It's just about realizing those options and being able to cater to that. And moving forward, like I was talking to one of the biggest retailers earlier today. I had a meeting and a demo with them, and they mentioned that they're now looking at a model where they want to utilize the infrastructure as a service for future brands and future retailers. They just don't want to cater to themselves, but now they want to open up and be able to cater to so these are the ways a lot of these players who were pure play offline or pure play retailers are now also coming up, along with the MSMEs in the communities who have a play as well going on. Other players are also looking at different revenue generation models. There are teams like what Ken mentioned who are focused only on that: business development, new business development, R&D. All of those things are happening, and then they're checking out various ways to do that. I think the ones who are able to use their key assets to their advantage, like be it a community, be it their physical assets, mall operators, MSMEs who have huge social media presence. There are small players right now who have pages with 1 million followers or 100,000 followers. They look at these influencers. Some of the biggest influencers in the US are now angel investors. They are investing money in startups because like that's sort of the asset they carry, and then we as startups want to be associated with them because they are a bridge for us to reach our customers. And a lot of these interplays are happening around us because the dynamics have suddenly changed. So I think, yeah, it's about figuring out what works for you, utilizing those assets, and maybe look at a model which is 10x or 100x. Always think about a 10x or 100x. How can I 10x my business from where I am to where I want to be in the future, and what are the new key trends coming up in the market? I think with that mindset, retailers, MSMEs, others are sort of figuring out, and players like us then come into the picture. We need to be more vocal, not just by selling our platform, but also guiding them as to what are the next steps they need to take. I think that's where platforms such as this come in and help them as well to realize the next steps for them.
One thing I'd just like to add there, Bettina, because Arch mentioned the 10x, and thanks to Kuya Ed here, right, and 4Gives, right, people need money, right, to grow their business, right,
They
Ed,
do.
and I do want to mention that because the fintech does play an important role in all this growth that Arch mentioned, right? Because what I love about fintech and how services like 4Gives works is it allows people to use money to get productive, positive outcomes, right? So it's not just money to throw away. It's money that you can use when combined with technology, and then you can actually fund and create a business with, right? So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, right? Kuya Ed, giving
Yeah,
away
yeah.
some money?
Yeah, I wish we could give away free money, but yeah, as far as to answer your question about key technology, you know, I'm a little more biased towards my company. Thank you, Dennis, for that. Yeah, buy now, pay later. Tech is fairly new in the Philippines. We have a couple players, Plentina, Tendo Pay. Although we kind of differ a little bit in some aspects, but it's not. There's no mass adoption yet. But I do see this as a bridge. Well, actually, we're gonna jump that bridge between from zero to not having a credit card to just having a buy now pay later platform. Like I mentioned earlier, the credit card industry has been going on for like 50 plus years, but still in the Philippines, there's only 5% of Filipinos having credit cards. So, we don't have this affinity to paying interest. So I see this tech being adopted, in a much more broader way in the next couple of years, and it's a way for consumers to stretch their budget and pay for things that they need and want. Uh, yeah, and it just basically frees up, their budgets, and actually helps from a micro and macroeconomic level, because with credit, debt cycles, it helps speed up the velocity of money. And as a matter of fact, that's how the US model works. 70+% of the population here have credit cards, and more than 40% have multiple credit cards. So yeah,
There's
whereas
buy
it's
now
really,
and never pay.
well, we'll forgive you. But
Thanks
yeah,
for that, and yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I'm just plugging my but from a personal perspective, I do want, like an investing platform to be accessible to everyone. Like, if you've heard of Robinhood here in the US, it gives that opportunity for even young ones to invest, learn about investing, and yeah, and hopefully grow their wealth, through investing. And yeah, we do need some education as far as finances, how we handle money. Most Filipinos still lack that. So yeah, technology can help, and that's my personal wish.
Yes. Yeah, so I actually like what you said, because it also bridges towards the end. We're actually reaching towards the end of our panel, but like what you said, about most Filipinos, only 5% of Filipinos have credit cards. So having platform like this and a system like this, it makes the disparity between consumers and what they need much smaller. So I guess, like, I think this leads me to my more or less one of the last questions that I would like to hear from everyone. How do you see your organization playing a role in the future of retail? So I think all of you might have a lot to say about this, because each of you play very key and very essential roles in the retail and for consumers. So maybe we can start with Archit, then Dennis, and then Ed once again.
Okay, all right. No, I think so. We definitely believe that the future is a mix of both online and offline. I don't see a future which is only online or which is only offline. It has to be a mix of both going forward. And we do believe that in the future, AI, ML, AR, VR will play a key role in terms of how everything goes around us. You see, Facebook launched Meta and renamed their brand name as Meta recently, and so much money pumping into the entire metaverse ecosystem. I think that will have a ripple effect on retail and e-commerce as well. I firmly believe that. And then it's up to platforms like us who are currently working and then helping businesses in Philippines take the first step, then be able to take 10, 20, 30 steps further and be able to cater to them. So we constantly invest in R&D, we constantly invest in new technologies, building AI, ML on top of what we're doing, so that once the businesses have taken the first step, we then help of predictability of their sales, predictability around the cost of their inventory, predictability around the channels in which they're selling. So all of these aspects are something which we are constantly investing on in our platform for all these businesses. And I think platforms like us who are much more accessible, easy to use, once we provide these technologies to an ordinary retailer or someone who's just going to try it out, has never got access to something like this, and bring it down from the biggest Amazons and Lazadas to the MSMEs, which Dennis has mentioned, and to businesses like Ken's. These guys then have the leverage and data points to then compete with the best in the world as well. So it's our duty as sort of the pioneers in the industry over here to sort of come in and help the businesses to compete at that scale. And I firmly believe that AI, ML, AR, VR will democratize and be accessible to everyone in the future. Right now, it's a select few on the top. The biggest brands is what you hear. Nike announced they're going into metaverse as well. If you read the news yesterday, so Nike is launching their own metaverse, and everything is happening. So I definitely see a time in 3-4 years where all of these MSMEs, everyone else will be part of that metaverse as well, and playing a key role. And platforms like us will be enabling them to be there as well in the future.
Well, thank you for that, Archit. Maybe we can go to Dennis on the Prosperna side. How does your organization play a role in the future of retail?
Yeah, thanks, Bettina. And so here at Prosperna, our goal is to just make e-commerce really, really simple and make it accessible, right? So we want every Philippine MSME to be able to have their own brand.com online store so that they can sell directly to their customers and they can make money without paying high transaction fees. So, if you look at, the simple things that, we're already used to, like Netflix, right? I'm sure everybody still remembers, hopefully, where the whole second and third floor of Green Hills was all buyers and sellers of DVDs. Well, that entire business
Yeah.
is gone
Yeah.
because for I think 149 pesos a month, technology and Netflix has made movies more convenient, easy, and unlimited. So that's what we want to do for Philippine MSMEs is really make that same effect where we're making e-commerce that simple, just like Netflix did for movies. So yeah, hopefully in the next couple of years we'll look back and go, we were there to really make an impact on our economy. So that's where we are.
Thank you, Dennis. Last, of course, not but not the least, Eddie.
Well, we have to realize that Netflix killed a lot of video stores, but Prosperna won't, because Prosperna is a good adjunct to your existing business, right, Dennis?
That's right.
Well, on my end, we can help both the merchant and the consumer. Why? Well, for merchants, they could make their products more attractive by offering an installment option for that particular product. Say for example, you do need a new phone, which costs 10,000, 15,000 pesos. At least, if you have a buy now pay later platform, you can stretch your budget and get the phone now instead of waiting a couple of months or a couple of weeks, till payday or till you get your allowance to eventually buy that phone that you need for your school activities, or for any other reasons. Secondly, for consumers, it's the same thing. Instead of borrowing from relatives or kamag-anaks, need get that food on the table just because payday is 2 weeks away. If you have this platform, it provides you a little bit of a credit line that you can use to all these merchants, and then pay in installments. Basically, it stretches your budget, helps you with your finances. So and that's the way at least we can help with both the merchants and the consumers.
Okay, I think that was a great set of answers from our panelists. We have Archit from Omnirio, who aims to elevate all of these merchants, all of these small businesses to be able to compete on such a level that these businesses can have the reach, can have the systems in place to optimize their business. We have Dennis from Prosperna making e-commerce as simple and as accessible to everyone as possible, making like what Netflix did, like what Netflix did for a lot
Industry
of
killer.
consumers. Industry enabler.
Oh, there you
Enabler.
go.
Yes. So, and of course, we have Ed from 4Gives, breaking the financial barriers for consumers, in order for them to meet their needs and to meet all these things that they want, all of these things as a consumer. So it's been an insightful and engaging discussion. We got a lot of great ideas on the table, maybe some personal insights on the table and experiences. And there's clearly a lot of change going on in the Philippine retail industry from both sides, from the merchant and from the consumer point of view. So before we part ways, maybe this is of course pabaon, or like the takeaway from final takeaway from today's panel for our audience. I'd like to ask our panelists, what single piece of advice, brief, keep it as simple and as impactful as you can, single piece of advice that you can give to retailers or new brands when it comes to adapting to the future of retail and e-commerce. Let's start with Dennis.
Accelerate, move fast, and the opportunities will come.
Accelerate, move fast, and the opportunities will come. Thank you for that, Dennis. I think that was actually touched on a lot over the course of our discussion. So I thank you for that. Maybe let's hear from Archit now before we finish off with Ed. Yeah.
I would just say be present everywhere, and just be everywhere wherever your consumers are. We touched on it. You have to be everywhere, and then use data to figure out what works best for you. But just two words: be everywhere. Consume all the channels where your consumers are, and then figure your way out.
Be everywhere. Thank you, Archit, for sharing that. And last but not the least, Ed.
Mine is really short. Technology is your friend. Don't be afraid to learn new things. Technology will help you.
Technology is your friend. And with that, I think we can close today's discussion. Thank you to our three panelists. You guys have given great advice, and we're very grateful to have all three of you share your knowledge and your insights on how Philippine retailers can find opportunities in the future of the Philippines retail and e-commerce. So once again, thank you, Archit, Dennis, and Ed for today. I'm Bettina Gamboa, and thank you everyone for joining our panel for today, and enjoy the rest of the Philippine Startup Week. Thank you everyone. Have a good day.